Hey everybody, it's Mom of Two Wife One. I know it's been so long since I made a video. My apologies, my apologies. But if you guys are clicking on this video and you're like, who the heck is this chick? I'm just clicking on it because I like her show, The Golden Girls. And that's more than enough reason really to click on this video because I love The Golden Girls too. But if that's why I clicked on this video and you don't know who I am, hi, greetings and salutations. My name is Mom of Two Wife One. I'm a content creator, a social media influencer. I'm also a writer and editor. And as the name suggests, I have two babies and I have one husband. Therefore, I am a mom of two and I'm a wife of one. On my channel, I do a few different things. Lately, I've been really into doing recaps or reviews of things that I watch on TV. My jam, like my thing that I love to watch, I love me a good documentary and or docuseries. I wasn't really fond of docuseries at first. I think it depends on what it is, but I really like those. So this video is one of those videos where I'm going to be not necessarily doing a review and recap, or kind of sort of. I'm going to include a recap, but I'm also going to talk about things that I learned and things you should not learn from what I watched. And if you see the title of the video, you already know what I'm going to talk about. So, we'll kind of get right into it. But before I get right into it, make sure you like this video, share this video, subscribe to my channel, and definitely comment below. Whether you've seen the docuseries or not, I enjoy reading your comments and I love communicating with you guys and interacting with you guys. So feel free to comment below. So, for those of you who've already subscribed, hi, thank you guys so much for subscribing to my channel. Welcome back. Yay, so glad to see you. So, from the title of this video, you know that we're here to talk about Worst Ex Ever. This is a 4-episode docuseries that is currently on Netflix. If you guys have not heard of this docuseries, and you don't know what it's about, I'm about to tell you. I will say that it should be a trigger warning. I'm not going to go into a lot of deep detail. I'm going to try not to because I don't want to spoil in case you do want to watch it. But if you have ever been in, man or woman, if you ever been in a relationship that has been abusive in some way, whether it's physically, emotionally, spiritually, whatever it is, this may be a very difficult thing for you to watch if you choose to watch it. And if it's going to trigger you, if I talk about certain things, feel free to fast forward just to get to the lessons that I've learned. I'll try to timestamp it if possible, but I definitely understand. So, Worst Ex Ever. It follows what I do like is a docuseries of 4 episodes, and each episode focuses on a different ex. The first episode was really interesting because it focused on one ex, but it focused on one ex boyfriend, but it focused on 3 of his ex-girlfriends who all had similar experiences. I will say, out of all the episodes, the first episode was very difficult for me to watch personally, and I don't have a history of abuse in any of my relationships, but it was difficult because the episode starts off with the real live 911 call that a woman made about her friend. And so hearing the call and hearing the panic in her voice, seeing some of the live video footage, I guess body cam footage from the police when they got to the residence after the 911 call, that was a little much. Um, but it was still, I don't say interesting. It's still an important story to tell, right? So each episode, like I said, follows one ex person, one ex in a relationship, and the terrible things that their exes had to endure from them. So in the first episode, it is a man who is the ex-boyfriend, and the people who are telling their story are 3 ex-girlfriends in like different states, different time periods, and he was incredibly physically abusive to both of them. Not only physically abusive, but there's also kidnapping involved. He kind of hold them hostage in their own home. And all 3 women are alive and they're well. The gentleman is no longer here, but it was like a manhunt and it just was this whole crazy thing. But it was so much for me that as much as I love watching docuseries, I had to take a break for at least 3 or 4 days before I finished. The next episode tripped me out the most because I'm like, this is a wild story. The fact that this is real is crazy. And it involves a woman whose ex-boyfriend, to sum it up, because if I sum it up, you definitely be like, ooh, gotta find out, what happened. This woman's ex-boyfriend framed her for some robberies that she did not do, and she ended up spending 7 months in jail. That's the gist of what he did to her. And when I tell you in that particular story, there were so many people at fault for what this woman went through. It was beyond insane. The next story, and I might get the third and the fourth one mixed up, but in one of the stories, there was a Hispanic woman who had married a black man, And well, actually, I didn't tell the race of the other ones. So the first story with the was a white man, and his exes were two white women and a black woman. The second story where the woman was framed by her ex-boyfriend, both of them were South American, I believe. I believe she was Guyanese, and I believe he was Guyanese as well. This next one was a Hispanic woman and her black husband. He was just incredibly, they got married. And actually, in the first two situations, there was no marriage. So in this one, they got married, but he was very abusive. He was very jealous, and his own insecurities manifested itself in trying to control her and abusing her. And unfortunately, this incident that took place that resulted in the loss of a life. So that wasn't great, obviously. And then the last one was a white man and his Asian wife. And she was the ex that did a lot of stuff to him. There was abuse, there was conspiracy with her and her mother enacting this abuse and this conspiracy and this like convoluted plan to basically get full custody of the kids that she shared, of the child that she shared with this man. He had full custody because she was deemed unfit by the courts after a good little while. And just the whole conspiracy that unraveled after she tried to take the child. It was a very nuts story. So I'm trying not to go into too many specific details with any of these because I do want you guys to watch it if you haven't already. But like I said, if you've gone through that before, if you have somebody close to you who's gone through any kind of domestic violence, it's going to be very triggering and you may not necessarily want to watch it. So if you'd rather avoid it, that's fine. Like I said, I'm not going to, the things that I learned and didn't learn or whatever from this docu-series shouldn't be triggering. So if you'd rather not watch it, just want to watch this video, that's perfectly fine with me. So I'm going to go over first the things that you should not learn from this documentary. Meaning, if you choose to watch these episodes, these are things that I don't want you to take away from them. Okay? The first is that every man is crazy. I have women in my life, two close women specifically, who went through a very bad divorce. And as a result, which is normal, you're going to look at all men very differently now. A lot of the anger and the disappointment and all those feelings that you have towards your ex-husband, you're going to kind of put them on men in general just because that's what we tend to do before we really truly heal. And knowing that they have those thoughts already and knowing that, they are where they are in their lives, I know that if they watch this, they would just think like, oh, of course he did because he's a man. Of course, and we should know. Hopefully, everybody watching me is grown. We should know at this stage in our lives that saying every man or every woman this obviously doesn't make any sense. We can't generalize. And the fact that in this docuseries, which I appreciated, one of the stories was about a woman who did something wrong by her ex-husband. So I like the fact that they included that story because if not, it would have turned into just kind of I don't want to say a man-hating documentary, but I like the fact that they included that one story in there because it is important to remember that in all of these situations, when we hear of domestic violence or when we hear of a couple getting divorced, it's not always the man who did something wrong. Like, it's just not. Sometimes it is, and maybe most of the time it is. I don't know the exact statistics, but most of the time it's more than just that man that did something. So I appreciate the fact that they had the woman, her side, and her story was in there as well. Another thing that I don't want anybody to learn from this docu-series is making excuses for other people's actions. When you are in that kind of situation, especially if you were married to this person's come around your family, they've been around your friends, and if you start seeing things that they're doing or saying, your first reaction normally is to make excuses. Oh, I know you heard him yelling at me, but oh, he's just tired. He had a long day. He had a fight with his boss. He's mad at his mother. He had a terrible childhood, so, that results in him doing X, Y, and Z. It is not up to anybody in a relationship to make excuses for the person you're in a relationship with. That person is an adult. That person should be mature enough to understand that they are projecting some things onto this person they supposedly love that they shouldn't be. And if they haven't made that declaration in their heads just yet, then it is up to you to say, hey, I don't know if you noticed, but you're bringing all of your anger that you have towards your job, you're bringing that home. And I don't deserve it, and that's not right, so we need to fix that. But it is not on you to make excuses to your family or your friends, like, oh, it's okay. Don't worry about Johnny. He did. No, 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 no. That is not up to you to make excuses. That is not your child. That is a grown man or a grown woman. No, don't do that. And the last thing is, unfortunately, that justice always prevails. And all of these stories, people went through the proper channels. They called the police. They got the restraining order. They did exactly what they were supposed to do to protect themselves, protect their children, protect their family. And unfortunately, in a lot of these situations, even though they did everything they were supposed to do, sometimes it just wasn't enough. Sometimes the people who were there to serve and protect you aren't doing what they need to do. And I'm not going to say every person, every law enforcement person is like that. I'm not going to say that. I think it definitely differs on where you live. I think that plays a big part in it. But either way, unfortunately, that's not one of the lessons that you get that, oh, she's in the right. Of course she's going to get what she wants. No. I told you about the woman who spent 7 months in jail because her ex-boyfriend framed her. And there were plenty of opportunities for them to prove that he framed her. And a judge and the police department, they just kind of, dismissed it. That's a problem because she could have avoided a lot of those months in jail while her daughter was on the outside and her business was failing. She could have been out. There was plenty of times to prove that she was innocent, and the right people didn't do what they were supposed to do. So, again, that's not a lesson you would get from this docu-series. But the things that I do hope that you learn, number one is to trust your gut. Even if you don't see all of the things this person is capable of in the beginning of your relationship, in the first couple months of dating, in the first 6 months of dating, there'll be little things here and there that you may notice. It may be a feeling you have in your gut like, something is, I don't know, something is kind of off here. Especially if you are considering marrying this person or being with this person long time. If you don't believe in marriage, if you're considering being with this person for the long term, pay attention to just everything. Pay attention to what they're saying. Pay attention to what they're not saying. Pay attention to how they treat you in front of other people compared to how they treat you when you're alone. Pay attention to how they view, how they react when you're going to hang out with your friends or hanging out with your family, doing anything that's not connected to them. Pay attention to that stuff. And, I don't want you to see red flags necessarily where there are no red flags, but you do need to kind of trust your gut and trust your instincts. If something feels a little off, listen to that part of your body. Like, I don't know. Don't brush things off as like, oh, it's just my imagination, or oh, I'm just sabotaging this thing. Listen to it. That doesn't mean take action right away and break up with the person, but just kind of stow it away in the back of your head just in case. Just don't dismiss it. I'm just saying that. Second thing is address things head on. When you do notice something, say something. You know how at the airport they say, see something, say something? It's the same thing in a relationship. If you have this feeling, this inkling that something is off, if you saw a little spark of anger where you never saw anger before, if you see a little hint of controlling, and you never saw that before, it's like, okay, address it. And it doesn't have to be you confronting the person like, hey, I know you did this and I don't appreciate it. No, no, no. Just say, hey, I noticed that when I was on the phone with this friend, I saw you kind of had a little bit of an attitude. And you never really had that attitude before. And I just want to know, are you not comfortable with me talking to that person anymore? Does it bother you when I hang out? Let's just have a conversation about it. It's all about having communication. And, that's what you're supposed to do in a relationship, especially in an adult relationship. You have communication. You just have a conversation about whatever it is that's on your mind. Now, you can't predict or control how they're going to react to you bringing that up, but it is up to you to bring it to the table so that way, nothing is building in your mind. You're not building this narrative of something that may or may not be there. You are actively discussing it. Now, based off of how they respond, you may have to make a decision on whether or not this is going to go somewhere or it's not going to go anywhere. But it's definitely up to you to address things as soon as you see it. Don't let it fester in your head. Because I know, at least for me, especially because I'm a writer, I will create these scenarios and I'll create a whole storyline for my husband, what I believe he thinks, what I believe is going on in his head, and I'll get to the point where I believed it myself without having one conversation with him. That's how I used to do. I don't do that no more. But that's a very dangerous place to be. So make sure as soon as you see something, or again, trust your gut, say something. Just address it. And it doesn't have to be a serious conversation just to be a throwaway comment like, oh, like you've never had that attitude before, like what's good? But say something. And the last thing that I want you to learn from this is to maintain contact with your people. And this is what I mean by this. Some people, when they get into a relationship, especially if they've never been in a relationship before, never been in a really serious relationship before, they tend to get so consumed with that person and so consumed with this new identity of being someone's girlfriend, boyfriend, husband, wife, that on purpose or accident or accidentally, they will cut off the people in their life, their family, their friends, and they'll just make their whole lives be consumed with this person. Or they are recluse, right? They're like introverts, like, oh, well, I'm just kind of quiet. I don't have a social media presence. I don't really talk to people like that. I'm just kind of, doing my thing or whatever. And again, still spending all this time with your significant other. The reason why that's dangerous, and the reason why in this show, in this docuseries, fortunately, all the people, all the victims had active social media accounts. And not saying that you have to, but I'm just saying that they did. And or they had very close relationships with their family and with their friends. The reason why that is important is because when stuff goes down, when something is wrong, your family and your friends, they notice right away that something is up. So they know to call the police, or they know to check in on you a little more often. You have to have those people around you, people who will notice that you've gone radio silent. That is important. Like I said, I'm a social media influencer, right? I post very frequently. If I ever went a month without posting something online, and if my friends have not talked to me in that period of time as well, I'm getting phone calls. My closest friends, my my female best friends in particular, if I go more than 3 days without talking to them, they're calling me like, hey, I feel like I haven't talked to you forever. Are you okay? What's going on? Because I talk to them on a regular basis. I make sure I maintain that contact with the people who know and love me best. So again, if I go radio silent or if they call me after a few days and I sound weird, they're going to know something's up. They're going to know to call somebody. Both of them have the numbers of both of my parents. They're going to know to make those calls like, hey, something's going on with her. I'm not really sure what. I don't want to overstep. She says she's okay, but she doesn't sound okay. She hasn't posted. I haven't talked to her. I haven't seen her. That's why it's important to maintain this contact. And not saying that your contact has to be your entire family or has to be 20, 35, 40 people. It doesn't have to be that way. In the first episode, that person, that friend who called 911 because her friend called her, she probably didn't have necessarily a whole gaggle of friends, but she had at least two or three. And while she was being abused by this man, she had the forethought to call the one friend that she knew would be there for her. So that friend was on the phone, like with the police, like, hey, my friend just called me. She said she needs to go to the hospital, but then the phone dropped and she didn't call back. I'm on the way to her house now. The whole time she's on the phone with the police. Okay, I'm knocking on the door. I hear banging. I hear this, but she maintained contact with the police the entire time. But she didn't call the police from her house. She called the police like, I'm on my way to my friend's house now. Yes, I'm outside her door. Okay, her boyfriend just left. Okay, I just went in. Oh my gosh, you need to come here. Get an ambulance. This is what I'm seeing. This is what I'm hearing. She did that because this is her friend and she knew, okay, something's going on with my girlfriend. Nobody's talked to her in days. Now I get a phone call and she's sounding the way she sounds. Oh, I'm on my way. I'll call the police. I'll call whoever I need to, but I'm on the way. That is important to make sure that you are not a recluse. Like, fortunately, this day and age, we can't avoid that. I don't care if you're shy. I don't care if you don't have family that you're close to, like, because I know sometimes that happens, unfortunately, then find something. Find some kind of support system. People who will love you and who will check on you when they haven't heard from you. That is crucial. And for a lot of these situations, I feel like that led to these people's lives being saved because they had their strong support system around them who made sure they were good every step of the way. That is important. So that's what I learned and what I hope you don't learn from this docuseries. Like I said, it can be very triggering if you have a history of domestic violence, either in your life or someone close to you. If you do, I highly suggest you don't watch this. Oh, and another thing, some people like this and some people don't. For the docuseries, they have interviews, obviously, with the real victims, with the real family and friends, with the law enforcement involved in some of these cases. And when they're telling the story of what happened, they had reenactments, but it was like an animated reenactment. Some people aren't really cool with animation in a real life documentary. I didn't necessarily mind it, but I do understand that some people don't like it. So if that's something that drives you crazy, that is a part of this docuseries. Every single episode has some kind of animation in it. So if you don't like that, I'm giving you fair warning that you may not want to see it. And again, if you have a history of this and it may be triggering for you, definitely don't look at it. But if you did see the docuseries or if you plan to watch it, please come back to this video and comment below. Let's talk about, what you, I don't want to say what you liked necessarily, because it's hard to say you like this documentary when it's about so many harrowing things. But comment below on if you watched it, what you thought about it, what you learned or gained, what story like surprised you the most. Definitely let me know, because again, I love talking about, especially documentaries. I watch documentaries all the time. And if you guys have any that you want to recommend to me, please let me know. I have Netflix, I have Peacock, I have Hulu, and I have Amazon Prime. So if you know, and I have HBO Max. So if you know of any documentaries on any of those platforms, please let me know. I love them. I eat them up. So leave your recommendations below. Again, make sure you like this video, share this video, and subscribe to my channel. And I'll see you guys soon. Peace.